大家好，我是尤波罗。Today I'm going to be speaking English because I'll be giving you guys a beginner's introduction and guide to whiskey. And if I speak Chinese, it'll take all day. First things first, is it whiskey without an E or whiskey with the E? Both are technically correct, but whiskey with an E usually refers to American whiskey or Irish whiskey, whereas whiskey without the E refers to Scottish whiskey, which is what I have, and Japanese whiskey, which I also have a little bit of. So both are technically correct, but today we're just going to be talking about whiskey without the E, because American whiskey is no real whiskey. Okay, so for a complete beginner, it can be very daunting, even if you're just looking at Scottish whiskey, no E, because there are just so many out there. But you can simplify it by just looking at the 6 Scottish whiskey regions first. First of all, there's the lowlands, which I only have one of the lowlands, that's the Auchentoshan. And lowlands whiskies tend to be very simple, very crisp, not very strong flavors. So for a beginner, that's a good way to start. Then you have the Highlands. Here it gets a bit stronger, smokier, earthier, oilier. So maybe for a beginner, not ideal. I only have one Highlands whiskey at the moment. That's the Tomatin. I'm not actually a huge fan of this. It's not bad, but it's okay. And then you have Speyside. Speyside is a really, really interesting region. It's technically still in the Highlands, but it's just at the very northern tip, just around Aberdeen. Very, very small region, but loads of distilleries. And here I have the Balvenie Double Wood. That's a lovely beginner's whiskey as well. In general, Speyside whiskies are also great for beginners because they're very floral, fruity, very nice, fresh flavors. Then we have Campbelltown. I actually don't have any Campbell whiskies right now that I can show you, but that's because there are only 3 Campbelltown whiskies. It's a very, very small region, just sort of below Islay. There used to be loads of whiskies there. Even though it's very small, it used to be 30 plus whiskies there, but now it's only 3 and I don't have any of them, sorry. Then we have the islands. So here I have quite a lot. We have Aran Island, obviously. Here I've got a really cool special edition, which I'm very looking forward to trying. Here's the bottle. The islands tend to be smokier, earthier, saltier, just very, very strong flavors. So maybe for a beginner, if you're not used to that, maybe don't try that. And out of all the islands, there's one isle that's actually usually kept separate from the others because there are just so many whiskies coming from there and the flavors are so distinct. And that's Islay. It's spelled Islay, but you say Islay. And as you can see, this is my Islay section. That's my favorite. So just as an example, this is often said to be one of the best whiskies, and I would agree. It's a fantastic whiskey. So here's a Lagavulin 16. Very nice. This is a special edition. It's an Islay whiskey, Talisker, and this was for the Game of Thrones finale, House of Greyjoy. We did a whiskey tasting in Scotland, and this was the tastiest because it's an Islay. And yeah, it's also got the coolest design. So these are the 6 Scottish whiskey regions, but as you can see, I have some whiskies over here that are not from Scotland. There's the Bavarian Slurs. I'm not even sure how to pronounce it, to be honest. It's empty already. I probably wouldn't have got it if I wasn't from Bavaria, but it's quite an interesting whiskey. And this whiskey is a fantastic whiskey from Japan. It won so many whiskey prizes out of nowhere in, I think, 2013 maybe? I'd have to double check that. But yeah, it just came out of nowhere and suddenly became very, very popular. And now they can't satisfy demand, and it's a great whiskey. So now you have a rough idea of what whiskey regions and what whiskies are out there. How do you now go into a bar or a pub and order whiskey for the first time if you don't really know what you want or what you're asking for. So you could go into the bar and, for instance, just say to the barman, hey, what kind of whiskies from the lowlands do you have? Or what kind of Speyside whiskies do you have? And then just go from there. Tell them if you like very smoky or very floral or lighter whiskies, and they will help you out. Important thing is, so as to not embarrass yourself, do not order ice. That's just wrong. Just don't do it. So now around whiskey, there are quite a lot of words or terms that don't make a lot of sense immediately. So you might be wondering, what is a single malt? And this is what I was talking about earlier with American whiskies with an E. A lot of them are not single malts, which means that they're blended. So that's very simply just taking a lot of different whiskies and blending them together, mixing them together to make a new whiskey. Scottish whiskies tend to not do that. Scottish whiskies tend to be single malts, which literally just means that they come out of the barrel and they're finished. So they don't add any other whiskies or any other flavors to the final product. So that's single malt. Then there's another word that often comes up with whiskies, which is double wood, double cask, double barrel, any of these. Wood, cask, barrel all just means the tongue in which it matures. So some of them, these are not blended whiskies. That doesn't mean that they take two whiskies and mix them together, but it means that this one whiskey has aged in two different barrels. This whiskey has aged, here it says the first cask is just a traditional whiskey barrel, and the second cask was a sherry cask. So this is why it smells and tastes very sweet of sherry. And finally, there's another word that often comes up, that's cask strength. So what does that mean? Cask strength whiskies are stronger than normal whiskies. So for instance, this one has 58.2%. Usually when whiskies come out of the barrel, as I said, they don't get blended, not single malts don't get blended, but they may add water just to dilute the strength down to 40, 42, 45 are usual whiskey strengths. But cask strength whiskies like this one have not been altered at all. They are taken out of the cask and bottled, and then that's it. So now you have a rough idea of how to choose a whiskey, how to order a whiskey, what the terms mean, how do you drink a whiskey. That's the most important part. I have two whiskies here that I have never had before. Well, actually, no, that's not true. This one I've definitely never had before at all. This one I have had before at a bar in Edinburgh. And I'm going to drink them with you just now. For the first time, I'm very excited. And I'm just going to tell you what to concentrate on, what's important, what you can pay attention to when you're drinking whiskies. This whiskey is actually super fun. It's a new whiskey, which you don't get that many new whiskies. It's called Smokehead, and it's an Islay whiskey. But there's a big secret around it, because even though we know it's on Islay, nobody knows or is told where on Islay it is. Here we go. Oh. Smoke. So much smoke. But as I said, I've had this before. And for an Islay whiskey, it's actually sort of more on the mellow side. It's not quite as strong as some of them are. So, how do you drink whiskey? First of all, you look at the color. So this is really bright yellow, honey yellow. Some of them are darker and some of them are lighter. Then you can look at around here. You can see a sort of oily ring, and that tells you just the kogan, just how it's going to feel in your mouth. And if you swirl it like that, And then you wait a second. You begin to see here the oil sort of falls down, and that's called here, and that's called the legs of the whiskey. It's quite cute. And again, the legs just tell you just how oily it's going to be in your mouth. This is a nose. You can take a nose and just smell. So much peat here. And then obviously you taste. It's nice. It's so good. Oh, there's so much fire in this. There's so much really, ash. It's great. And so finally, we're going to try the Macklemore, which is a cask strength, very strong, 58.2% iron whiskey special edition. And I'm very excited for this. I've never tried it before. And I don't usually buy whole bottles of something that I've never tried before at all. But I've read so many good reviews about this that I thought I'm going to give it a try. Oh. I was expecting this to be so much stronger. So here already you can see the difference just looking at the color. This is such a rich honey yellow, sunflower yellow color, and this is very light. So that's interesting. Oh wow. Oh, it's actually quite viscous. You can see the legs. I was expecting it to be thinner just from the color, but it's not thin at all. The alcohol comes through very strong. Quite fresh. Kind of peachy almost. Whoa. That is so nice. It's peated, which mostly Islay whiskies are. Not all island whiskies are. Not all iron malts are. But it's actually the peat doesn't come through very strong in this. It's actually quite fresh, like a sea breeze. Salty. No smoke, really, almost. Very little smoke. Yeah, I can see why this is so popular. Okay, so this was my very quick introduction to whiskey. You may think now that it's way too complicated, way too expensive. I would say to you, don't worry about that so much. Just maybe try a dram first at a bar or maybe at a friend's place if they have one. I would recommend as a great beginner's whiskey, if you still don't know what to get, Balvenie Double Wood is a very, very smooth, very fruity whiskey. It's great for beginners. And if you're worried about the costs, it is true that one bottle will set you back 30 to 40 euros, even in the cheaper region, but you can drink them very, very slowly. I've had most of these bottles for over 5 years. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please ask. And thank you all for watching. Sláinte.